Hi guys, welcome back to Nico Talks Hockey. Today I'm talking about my Chicago Blackhawks, and I'm talking about who I think, uh, personally, are my favorite 10 Blackhawks of all time. Now, a couple notes before I get right into it. Um, I'm not really including players that I wasn't able to really watch. There's some absolute legends. I mean, 100 years of Blackhawks hockey. And there's a lot of legends that I wasn't able to watch because I'm in my 20s. I was not able to watch Stan Mikita and Bobby Hull and, Jeremy Roenick even and Savard. So I wanted to put these players, I mean, the legends, but this isn't really a ranking of who the best Blackhawks are of all time. This is my favorite. It's a very subjective list. It's just based on what I enjoyed about watching them um, throughout my life. So yeah, I'll go through every selection and I'll kind of explain each one. But again, it's not about who's the best. Is nothing really about that. It's just who I enjoyed being on the Blackhawks. So let's get into a couple Honorable mentions. I do have three honorable mentions because there's so many players. I wanted to include and they're not even honorable mentions here. I wanted to include, like Scott Foster, the goalie that the best e-bug of all time, the emergency backup goalie, comes in and doesn't even get scored on, and the Hawks win the game. He'll forever be a legend in Chicago. He only played one game, so I didn't get to see a lot of him, so I couldn't put him on this in good faith. I also want to, I didn't put him on honorable mentions either, but Cristobal Huey, he was the backup goalie in 2010 when the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup against the Philadelphia Flyers. Antti Niemi was the main goalie, but Huey was the backup, and I always thought that he did not get enough credit. I loved Huey as a kid. I don't know why. I guess it was just like this kind of like, he never got the spotlight. It was always Niemi, Niemi, Niemi. So I remember when I was at the parade in 2010 after they won it. I remember when Huey got on the stage, there was like very few cheers. It was all, it was all for the other guys. But I was like one of the loudest, I think, cheering for Huey there. But in my honorable mentions, I have three players, starting with Kirby Dach. I have a jersey of Kirby Dach. I only have two Blackhawks jerseys that fit me currently. One is a Connor Bedard jersey, and the other is a Kirby Dach jersey. When we got Kirby Dach, we were in a really rough period of Chicago Blackhawks hockey. Stan Bowman was still the GM, and they had convinced themselves that this team was still good enough to contend when it very clearly wasn't. So we were fighting against a rebuild. We were kind of retooling, but it wasn't good enough. And also that was when Jeremy Colleton was the coach, and he was a horrible coach. And at least he was horrible as a head coach in Chicago. Maybe he's doing better now these days. But all I know is when I was watching him, really disliked him, and I hated how he played Dach. In Dach's own words, he was being played as like this third line checker in a checking line role, when he was more of a power forward that should be playing in the top six like every night. So I hated how they treated Dach's development. I think they also rushed him to the NHL. He probably deserved a year or two to kind of cook in the AHL or maybe in the juniors. I forget where he came from, but I loved Dach straight out of the gate. I loved his personality. I thought he was. I don't know. I also feel really bad about how everything turned out. I've said this before on the channel, so anyone watching who's seen me talk about Dach before, they might be hearing repetition here. But yeah, I wish the best for Dach. I haven't given up on him still as a player that, as long as he can stay healthy, can actually turn into someone who sticks around the league long term, because he's really got talent, and if he just uses his tools. So even though he's not on the Blackhawks anymore, I wish Kirby Dach all of the best. So he's in my honorable mentions of my favorite Blackhawks of all time, along with Frankie Nazar. Nazar's not breaking the top 10. He's not been on the team long enough, but I love Nazar. The swagger he brings, the aura he has, the 6'7s he pulls. Frank Nazar is awesome, and he will absolutely be in this top 10 eventually. I know it. I just couldn't put him on here just yet. But he's already a favorite of mine. And then lastly, before we get into the top 10 here, I've got Connor Murphy. Connor Murphy is a legend in my own eyes. He's been on this team for a long time, and he suffered on this team for a long time. He's always been a leader. He's always had a great personality. No matter how bad the Blackhawks have been, they've been bad while he's been here. He's stuck with them. He's never requested a trade. He's never wanted out. He's always been a leader through his actions and the way he carries himself and presents himself. He's, by all accounts of what I've seen from him, he's just a really good dude. Just a guy who, on the ice, he's leading by example. He's blocking shots. He's sacrificing the body, and then off the ice, he's doing charitable work, and he's just being a really good person. So love Connor Murphy. There's a time where I wanted him to be the captain of the Chicago Blackhawks, but this is his last season, very, very, very likely in Chicago, and wherever he goes on after that, I'll be watching with a smile because Connor Murphy is the GOAT. But moving into the top 10, at number 10, I've got Brent Seabrook. I love Brent Seabrook. Siebes, I think a bit of a theme throughout this is if you're a leader, if you're this kind of, even if you're not wearing the C, if you're someone who can, when the goings get tough, if you can show everyone else how it is to act and how to act and carry yourself as a hockey player in the NHL, Brent Seabrook absolutely did that. My favorite moment of his of all time is when, it was in the Detroit series in 2013. The Hawks go down 3-1 in the series, and it was looking really bad. And then Taze is like really frustrated. Our captain, Jonathan Taze, the guy who looked unflappable, becomes flapped. He gets a penalty, and it's out of frustration, and he goes to the box and he looks really dejected. And then Brent Seabrook comes up to him. He goes in the box, and he just gives him a quick little pep talk saying, we need you. We can do this. And it gave Taze all of what he needed to hear. And the Hawks come back and they win that series. And Brent Seabrook puts away the overtime goal to finish off that series. So just a legend and a leader through and through, even if he never wore the C. Moving on to number 9, Alex DeBrincat. I'll always love Alex DeBrincat. And he's kind of like in the same vein of like Doc, where he was a victim of the times in Chicago. There was a stretch there that we just were kind of a directionless franchise where we weren't rebuilding under Stan Bowman. We were just bad. So it was sucky. But regardless, he was never not Alex DeBrincat. He was always cooking with Patrick Kane, and he was this short kid who, so many people said it was never going to make the NHL. I'll never forget reading for the first time his kind of letter, like a thank you and a send off to Chicago when he left, and he eventually found his way to Detroit. So it's I'm really sad that Alex DeBrincat is no longer a Chicago Blackhawk. I loved him on his time with his time here. He was just a wizard at scoring goals, and he did it all with this underdog kind of presence. So, very sad that he's no longer with us, but I do wish him all the best in Detroit, and kind of just a testament everywhere that size matters not, and that it doesn't matter if you're, shorter than a lot of sports players and hockey players, you can still make it, and he proves that. Moving on to the top 8 here. At number 8, I've got Connor Bedard. I definitely think that he'll be moving up higher in the coming years. But for now, this is his 3rd season in the NHL. I had to put him here at number 8, though. I put him ahead of Frankie Nazar just because of... I loved Connor Bedard before he was a Chicago Blackhawk. Seeing him, he almost is what got me into watching prospects and loving watching prospects and analyzing the upcoming drafts. Just watching him in the WHL, he was unbelievable, and everyone knows that. and just praying. I remember just the whole year or losing that year. I was like, please, 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 God, help us land Connor Bedard, and the rest is history. So he's got swagger to him, and I love what he's bringing this season, which is just like he's way more physical. So yeah, even though Connor Bedard is only in year 3, he's already had such a presence. I truly believe he'll be the next captain of the Chicago Blackhawks. Maybe not right away, but yeah, I do believe that Nick Foligno will be passing the torch to Connor Bedard in short time. And yeah, he comes in at number 8. Love Connor Bedard. Moving to number 7, I've got Corey Crawford. Corey Crawford is my favorite goalie of all time for the Chicago Blackhawks. Someone who I always thought was never talked about with enough bravado and enough respect as he deserved. Corey Crawford is a legend, and he is a 2-time Stanley Cup winner, and he was not carried by the Chicago Blackhawks defense. I truly don't believe that. I know a lot of people say that, like, oh, when you look at the GOATs of the 2010s, you look at Jonathan Quick, for good reason. You look at Carey Price and Lundqvist, and yes, I believe that all those goalies were better than Corey Crawford. But I still say that Corey Crawford, the Hawks don't win those 2 cups, 2013 and 2015, without Corey Crawford. He was so good, a top 10 goalie during his stay on the Blackhawks in the entire league. So yeah, Corey Crawford, he was always very humble. He's someone that wasn't flashy or was too full of himself. Someone who just was very dedicated to his craft. He took the time necessary to kind of develop in the AHL, and then when he was ready, it was very clear. So I'll always love Corey Crawford. He comes in at number 7. At number 6, just in the top 5 here, I've got the legend himself, Eddie Olczyk, Eddie O. Never watched him on the ice, but no, just the fact that he was a player of the Chicago Blackhawks. But then myself watching him as the color commentator for the Blackhawks during their glory years, that's enough for him to land on this list here. So yeah, Eddie O, him and Pat Foley formed, in my opinion, a very biased opinion, but opinion nonetheless, the best commentator duo ever. They were too good. Pat Foley's legendary voice will forever be missed, even though he's alive still. That sounded bad, but I miss him as the main commentator. Even though I think the current guys are doing a good job for sure, but Pat Foley is just another tier in my opinion. And then Eddie Olczyk just always being that you could just tell they were really good friends and they got along and they had such great reverence and respect for each other. Eddie O is always a legend, and I hope that maybe one day he comes back to Chicago to call their games once again. Moving into the top 5 here, though, at number 5, this, in my opinion, is my favorite defenseman of all time for the Chicago Blackhawks. It's Niklas Hjalmarsson. I love Hjalmarsson, and I think when I think about Hjalmarsson, I think about sacrifice. What does it take to win a Stanley Cup? It takes sacrifice, maybe more than everything else, more than talent, and more than grit. It takes sacrifice. You have to give up so much to get the ultimate prize that is the Stanley Cup. And Niklas Hjalmarsson understood that maybe more than anyone. He was crucial to every single Stanley Cup that was awarded to Chicago. Without him, we don't win one of those. So, yeah, he put his body in front of so many shots, and I think that everyone understands just how good he was, analytically and to the eye. He was, I think if any young defenseman is looking to emulate someone, if they're more of a defensive, stay-at-home defenseman, look to Niklas Hjalmarsson. Moving to our top 4, at number 4, I've got Patrick Kane. I've said some players that maybe are a little off the board, not too off the board, but at number 4 is Patrick Kane. I know that he's number 1 for some people. I'll get to that in a second, but Patrick Kane is unbelievable. He'll always be one of my favorite Blackhawks of all time. Was I always a fan of the antics off ice that he had? No. didn't love that he took a long time, I think, to mature into the player he is today and the person he is today. But it was cool to see that eventually, and him kind of develop into a leader for the young Blackhawks during their bad years, right? Patty Kane will always be the greatest American-born hockey player of all time for me. And I'll always love Patrick Kane. I wish him luck in Detroit. At number 3, though, I've got Patrick Sharp. The most handsome man on the Chicago Blackhawks, Patrick Sharp, had it all. I mean, he was gifted by the gods. He had unbelievable hockey skill, and he was a very good looking dude. So it was really easy to like him too, because he's always smiling, and he's always he's got that charisma. It was no wonder that he also had success as a studio analyst, behind the scenes, well, not even behind the scenes, just like in front of the camera, right? So Patrick Sharp, from what I could tell, he also loved playing pranks on people, a lot like Marc-Andre Fleury. So that's very endearing and pretty cool. But yeah, Patrick Sharp was never someone that I would see just being a jerk to any of the other players. Like, he just looked like someone who was very easy to get along with, and just always had a smile on his face. Just really cool to see, just him always bringing that kind of vibe to the team. And of course, his on-ice play was also awesome. Very pivotal part to the team, and the top 6 player for the Blackhawks during their best years. So it cannot be understated how good Patrick Sharp was. Moving to the top 2 here, at number 2, just missing my favorite Blackhawk of all time, but still my second favorite Blackhawk of all time, is Jonathan Toews. Toews and the player I'm about to mention at number 1 are the archetypes of what, like, if I cheer for a player, why do I cheer for them? These players check all those boxes of what I cheer for. I cheer for a leader. I cheer for someone who plays by example. They are, they are what other players on the team emulate and aspire to be. Jonathan Toews was also a really good person from everything I saw of him. Growing up, it was so cool to have Jonathan Toews posters on my wall and see, he was the youngest captain there for a little bit. Him and Crosby, at least, were the youngest captains in the league, and when he brought that cup to Chicago, winning the Conn Smythe Trophy in 2010 at such a young age. It was just so cool to see, and he will forever remain one of the biggest icons and idols in my life. And now as a Winnipeg Jet, it sucks to see him on another team, but when he's happy, I'm happy. So yeah, rooting for Taser. But at number 1, I've said this before, this is my favorite player, not just on the Blackhawks, but my favorite player of all time. It is Marian Hossa. It's crazy to say, because I still remember when he came to our team. My dad called me and said that we just got Marian Hossa, who was previously a Red Wing and had just eliminated us the year before in 2009. And I was so sour on the Red Wings. I was like, I hate this team. I was like 8 or 9 years old. At that time. So my dad calls. He says, "We got Marian Hossa, the top, free agent." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't want Marian Hossa on my team. He's gonna be a secret agent. He's gonna sabotage us from within." So I was not happy that we got Hossa at first in my very, youthful hockey mind. But no, Hossa ended up becoming my favorite of all time. You can point to so many things. He's a leader, right? Even though he never wore the C. He was never the captain, the official captain. He was always a leader. He was Mr. Clutch. I mean, in the clutchest of moments, I'll never forget in 2010 against the Nashville Predators. If he doesn't help win that game and score the overtime winner after he got the penalty, that would almost assure the Blackhawks would not win that game in Game 5 against the Nashville Predators. Blackhawks fans who watched during that time know what I'm talking about, but that was an unbelievable moment where he felt so bad about himself because he caused a penalty and they were already down. They somehow, while being down a man, tie it up, and then he comes out and scores the overtime winner. to win Game 5. That was such a pivotal game. It's very, it's very likely that if we don't win that game, there's no Stanley Cup in 2010. So, yeah, crazy stuff from Hossa. Yeah, he was defensive, defensive legend. He just knew how to score goals at the right times. He was just one of the most complete players I've ever watched. So physical, like able to like hold players off while he created offense. Yeah, it was a shame to see him go the way he did with the kind of the thing, the condition that developed of his, to hockey equipment was just unbelievable and so unique and rare of a condition. But still, Hossa went out on top. I love that we've honored him so much since his retirement, and yeah, for the time being and for the very foreseeable future, Marian Hossa is my favorite Chicago Blackhawk of all time. That's been the list. Thank you so much for watching. Those are my 10 favorite Blackhawks of all time. Again, very subjective. I'd love to hear any Blackhawks fans or even non-Blackhawks fans who was the Blackhawk you loved watching the most whenever you watch the Blackhawks. Let me know in the comments below. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing. That would mean really so much to me. And I will see you guys in the next video.